Today's podcast is about brace. It's one of Mark's favourite things that he works on when he sees horses. He sees tension in a horse that can be mental and physical, and he tries to reduce it. This week, we're going to get some questions from people who are asking how they can remove the brace that they're experiencing as they step up their training, and get some thoughts from Mark about how they can do that. Hello, welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley.
And I'm Mark Langley.
Mark, the first question comes from Laura from Australia. She's got a young horse and she'd like to go a little bit faster with it. Now, this youngster is fine to lead, beside, behind and back up. But as soon as you ask them for a faster pace, she's noticing there is a resistance and a lack of response, which is creating a brace rather than a light, soft transition forward. Mark, can you just describe for people who are new to your concepts what a lack of response, what a resistance kind of looks like in a horse?
Sometimes brace just looks like someone's frozen the horse. So you see all the muscles freeze for a second, everything locks up, and there's kind of just a general statue resistance in the horse. Sometimes, you could see leaning as a brace too, where a horse just pushes through pressure, but that's just almost like, it's not bracing, it's just charging through pressure. But a brace is like a conflict where the muscle stops, so brace can be in slowing down. So sometimes some people slow their horses down and they just kind of release the energy in the horse so quickly that the horse just stops. And it actually kind of, instead of stopping with energy and flow and floating to a stop, it just kind of all of a sudden the movement sort of just stops all of a sudden. So to me, brace can be just movement kind of just stopping and everything stops quickly instead of stops loosely and in kind of a state of flow. So basically there's a tension in muscles as well, all that sort of thing, a shortening, or sort of the horse having shallow breathe, carrying tension and brace, and when you see the horse, the three senses, like the eyes stop rolling around and the ears stop rolling around and the nose and the airways and the nose not drawing air properly, right through and sniffing the air, and the horse starts to kind of stop one of those senses, then there's obviously a brace starting to happen through the body. And you feel brace, you feel it by like clumpy feet, like the horse is braced and heavy on the fore and clumping and it's not loose in the muscles. If you look at a soft loose horse, their muscles are kind of like loose and they can quiver and there's like a cat mobility in them in the way they move. But when you look at a clumpy stiff horse, they're kind of carrying brace all the time. So at the start you might see it as a proper big freeze brace where they're leaning against you.
But it's very subtle as well, isn't it?
It can be very, very subtle, just as smooth. Like some horses just scratch the ground and they're just not trying at all. But if you look at them, they're full of brace and anxiety. And you see some horses that look quiet and they look like they're coping with life well. And then you find out they've got like high-grade stomach ulcers and stuff like that because they've been carrying a lot of tension in them. But if you actually look closer, they're actually carrying. You can't carry that much anxiety without some form of kind of brace or resistance in your body and somewhere through the system.
If a horse has got brace, does it also have to have anxiety by definition? Do the two always go together?
Well, I guess brace is more so the horse not dealing with anxiety. So anxiety's a healthy thing in horses and people and everything. It's you can't have life without anxiety. And horses, a horse that grows up without any anxiety and lives in a very comfortable bubble, usually is the horse that blows up when it gets put into the real world, because it hasn't learnt to regulate and do something about anxiety. So it's more so trapped anxiety and the helplessness of not being able to do something about it. So the anxiety builds up and the horse doesn't have, it can't think, and it doesn't, and it thinks it's not allowed to search and support that search with movement and stuff to fix the anxiety. So, a classic example would be back in the wild when horses were wild and they weren't sort of humanised, I suppose, before humans, maybe when they were still evolving, oh, crikey, there's a saber-toothed tiger over there, we might just, canter off over here and find somewhere safe to go. Saber-toothed tiger created anxiety, horses thought, well, go somewhere else. Their legs supported that thought. They went somewhere else. Wow, pretty safe here. Let's eat. Back to normal. Job done. So they did something about the anxiety. And that's life in general with horses now. There's some anxiety. Search, create movement, flow, do something about it. Then might relax and have rest somewhere. So basically horses can cope with quite high levels of anxiety as long as there's a flow-on effect and they can do something about it and constantly search, make good decisions about it. So if you look at it like that, then you can actually add more anxiety and actually the horses soften to anxiety, which is quite good to watch when you get a braced horse and then you throw some anxiety at it, and because you've done a free up the mind lesson, free up the body lesson, free up the mind lesson, all of a sudden that the level of anxiety and what you're trying to throw at the horse is a lot less because the horse can do something about it, but then they actually soften when you create a bit more awareness in them. So the anxiety is actually creating softness opposed to creating brace. And that's what you want to get to, that anxiety creates softness and search, not brace and helplessness.
That's really interesting. All right, but for Laura, her horse is moving, so it's sort of able to release that anxiety, or if it has any. But when she wants it to go a little bit faster, and remember it's a young horse that is learning, it's bracing, and presumably she's wanting this horse to get to the light soft transition that becomes a habit, so that she's learning to move in the right way. Those transitions particularly aren't going with a bump or a clunk, they're going nice and freely. So what's the trick behind teaching a young horse to do it in the right way?
Yeah. Just in the question, I didn't quite get enough detail on the exactly what you're doing under saddle or in hand, and if it's transitions in following the lead rope up faster and backing off, or you're using the legs to get the horse to go faster and then you're slowing it down with the reins and stuff like that. So without sort of having that, I'll give you a bit of a general idea of what I would do is something that I notice, and we all fall into this, myself as well, because I've been constantly learning from my own mistakes, let alone kind of observing people and what the horses are confused about with other people. But what I'm sort of trying to, what I notice is people get in a bit of a habit where they just start to work in a certain training rhythm. They ask for this much pressure and they back off and they get in a rhythm, back up like this, go forward like this is my legs, do this transition and slow down like this. And if I watch a lot of people, they have a certain rhythm their horse gets comfortable in, and when they want to go faster, speed up the transitions, that's when they start to get the crash. Now, obviously the horse is going faster when you're asking things. So why is there more of a crash when the horse goes faster? Why do they push on the reins more? It's because with a horse, when you pick up the reins or do something with it and try and change its thought when it's going faster, it feels like there's going to be more conflict because the reins are picking up at speed. So what you've got to try and do in your walk and from a standstill, and even if it's just the leading exercises, you've got to say, now I'm going to pick up a bit of feel and I'm going to ask you to back up. Oh crikey, I'm in a hurry, back up. So you create a faster rein speed. So what I mean rein speed is, for an example, on groundwork, you pick up the knot and then you say, but the knot's going this fast, and it's going faster, and that's slowing down, it's going faster, now it's going forward, and the horse goes, oh geez, I've got to keep up with that. Oh right, that's faster than I'm used to. Holy cow, I'm going to have a fright. And if your horse gets a fright to that increased knot speed, rope speed, rein speed, whatever you want to call it, when you're just doing your leading lessons, well, you know that you've been in a bit of I'm doing this at that speed, I'm doing that at that speed, and the horse doesn't understand how to speed up and get in time with it. So in all your slow things, and even if you're working on a leg transition, I'm standing still, go into the fast walk in a microsecond, go into the slow walk and stalk like a cat, and go stalking like a cat from up into a fast walk. And oh crikey, slow down, there's a cliff in front of us, back up, there's a snake, it might be coming towards us, get away from it, back up, oh good, thanks, we just survived. So what you're doing in the real slow work is you're doing little, I call them burnouts, my car can only go 10 kilometres an hour, and if it takes me 500 metres to get to 10 kilometres an hour, it's going to be a very boring car. But if it can go to 10 kilometres an hour in a microsecond, wow, that's going to be fun to drive. Okay, so what I'm saying is decrease the time it gets to whatever in the slow speed, so the horse is working faster in between those things. Now that doesn't matter. It could mean turning into a left rein, follow the left rein a little faster, come through that turn a little quicker, back up a little quicker, move forward a bit quicker. And first of all, then you're working on the things that you can control. So obviously find out if there's any brace in there when you want and want more speed out of something and increased, and keep repeating it till the horse is very good at it. And then when you go into a trot, when you pick up on the reins and say slow down, you find the horse is more responsive to the reins, and they'll listen as they're trotting. It won't feel like I'm trotting and now I've got to listen to the reins, because you've increased their awareness to the reins and the legs and the rope and the leading and all that in the slow speeds, and their ability to stay in time. Then they're a lot more aware and soft when you prepare for transition, when you're going more at speed. Okay, the other thing you have to think about with transitions as well at speed, if you've done what I've just said, maybe sometimes you just got to let your trot horse relax in the next gear for a while. So you might get it into that gear and just let it kind of get its bearings until it's like, I'm emotionally stable with all the things whizzing past me a bit faster. Because sometimes when a horse goes faster and it doesn't have a lot of confidence, things whiz past it a lot faster and it can't process them. So then it gets all kind of tight. So you might find that as you're just coasting around, just letting the horse travel. Maybe it's got to travel a little bit, let things whiz past it for a while until it goes, I'm okay with all this. Yep, I can handle this speed. And then you're good, you go, good, now you can handle that speed, slow down and get to that speed faster, and slow down a little bit faster, and just start to bring in to play what you were showing your horse previously in increased rein speed or leg speed and things like that. And then you're preparing the horse to deal with those bigger, faster things that are happening, and then it helps them when they're at speed.
So the soft transitions will come a bit more naturally, the more slower transitions you do, but more varied. At a slower speed, so lots of different speed transitions, but within the slow bracket before you go into the fast bracket. That made sense to me, and it seemed to be quite progressive. The next question is a little bit more technical, Mark. It's from Miriam from Sweden. Now, Miriam's been working with a horse for quite some time, and when she first started working with him, he had no search at all. He was shut down, unbalanced, and got easily stressed. She's been using your methods for a while now. She's finding that he's searching more. He's a lot more relaxed and confident. And in the last 6 months, she's been lifting up his wither and working on his collection. And she wants to get this soft feel and flexion. But she's finding that there's quite a tight tension in his jaw. And she's not sure if that's related because they've gone to another level with the amount of, the technicality of what they've been working on, or whether there's something else that she needs to address that perhaps she's missed. Now, she has noticed one thing is that when she does a backup with him, he does seem to look out of one eye with his head turned in the opposite direction. So she is wondering if perhaps one rein backups might be helping with something to do with that. But I just wondered if you could shed some light on what may help just to soften this a little bit more collection in an elevated position without losing the elevation as well.
I've got two answers in my mind because there's two parts. One of the answers may be for you, but it's for something I noticed when someone was riding the other day that I helped her with her horse, and she had a similar problem. But the last part of the question, which is a bit of a concerning part, is the one eye on thing. If you've still got one eye on in the backup and the horse wanting to cross eyes and see you on one side versus the other, then any faster you go on a horse, you're going to create a bit of a dilemma. So if there's anything you can do in the long reins, swapping eyes in the long reins, getting the horse so comfortable at processing you at the back of each eye individually, and it doesn't matter where you are, what dress you're wearing, how fast you are, how big your energy is, you can move your horse softly in front of you, and then swapping eyes all the time. That swapping eyes in long reining and then under saddle stuff and getting deeper turns where the horse has to lose you with one eye and the other eye consistently all the time. Go back to that basic stuff all the time before you go to advanced stuff, so you can find any holes in the horse. And there's another thing also in the swapping of eyes in the hindquarter where you're going to get a lot of control. Is I always go back to very basic hindquarter where I bind the horse up quite tight in a bend and wait till they really release that hindquarter and release all 4 feet and flow into that bend. If you can't bind them up a little and have them relax and find their way into movement from that tight bend, then they're always going to be saying that's too much, that's too much, that's too much, I'm not going to go any further. So you've got to take them into that place and then kind of let them release. So going back into those very basic but tight bend hindquarter yields to get the horse to really balance is always very good. And everybody that goes back to everybody I see that goes to advanced riding, not everybody, but most people, you know, whether riding a dressage horse or whatever, they tend to not go back to that good one rein riding that goes right back to the very basic first rides, or not the first rides, but a couple of rides into it on horses where you're bending them around and rolling them around and getting them to really loosen up in the reins. And I would always visit that to make sure, because every single horse I've seen any brace in the back up, spreading their feet out too much in the back up, all sorts of problems. You go back to those things and you find a hole. So you go back to that. And then when the horse can softly find flow in a bend and the other bend and lose you with the other eye, outside eye, whatever, it's comfortable, not fighting in one rein or the other, one direction or the other, then you go back to your two-handed riding where you start to do a little bit more with the two reins and pick them up. Second part of the thing that I think about, and this is more so on a lesson I saw the other day, so I use it as an example. There's a lady I've been doing some online lessons with, and I'm sitting watching as she's warming up, and she's got a big warm blood that she's sort of training, and she decided to start herself because she didn't want to send it away, and she's doing a good job. But as she was warming up, she did this really nice job of relaxing the horse in the reins. You know, the horse was relaxed and he was kind of loose and steering, and you know, and she was talking to me while she was explaining where they were at and what they wanted to work on and stuff like that. And she was going around and she'd steer, and the horse would look into the rein, relax a bit, and he'd lower his head a bit, and then she'd sort of let him stretch out, and then he was kind of walking around really relaxed, really nice. And you know, most bystanders would say, oh, that looks really nice, she's done a great job of getting the horse to relax in the reins. And then when she picked up the reins to pick him up and do something, he was like, got all tight. And I said, now stop right there, okay? I've let you do that for the last 10 minutes, and do you know what you've just done? She's like, what? And I said, well, you've just taught your horse to relax in the reins, but you didn't do it by putting him in balance. I said, you're using the reins, yeah, they changed his thoughts, yeah, he looked over there and he was kind of turning. I said, but he was slowly getting more kind of forward on his forehand and just stretching out and looking generally like a loose rein, relaxed horse. I said, you have to relax your horse in balance so he picks up properly and uses his whole body, and he lifts himself up and finds relaxation through using himself properly, not just, you know, stretch out and relax. So that's one thing I want you to think about in your slow work is get your horse to do everything very slowly, very well. And when the horse is tight and stiff, instead of picking up a rein just to get him to look and relax and bleed out softly and go, pick him up and say, hey, step up, step over, soften into that turn, lift up, and now I can feel you engaging, thinking into the turn using your body, and now I can feel you let go of the brace and tension, let off and let them find their balance and turn. So then they're finding relaxation in the lifting up and looking into the turns, not the just looking into the turns and like getting all loose like they want to sit on the couch kind of thing. So in all your basic relaxation work, remember, like, think of relaxation like this. Watching a tense boxer versus a relaxed boxer. Watching a tense football player versus a relaxed football player. Think of it as a relaxed sports person. When we think about relaxation, we think about sitting here doing a podcast, you know, drinking a beer and just relaxing. No, it's about being a relaxed sports player, okay, that can just flow and float and be just as quick and agile as everyone else on the field, but just better at it because they're in a constant state of relaxed flow. So relaxation, or the word relax, means free of tension and anxiety. I don't know about anxiety because anxiety is always in and out, but it's been able to manage that anxiety. So relax as flow. So when you're getting your horse to relax in all your rein work, get them to pick themselves up and do it properly. You know, and slowly build the slow stuff where they're lifting and relaxing and carrying themselves better up into their movements. And they might be the ones that you might have thought used that you know, you might, because you might have started with a tight horse So what you did was good. I'm not saying you're doing this exactly, but I'm just saying maybe address that. Maybe there's something in there that you can do. And then as they start to get better at that, like with the other question, then speed that movement up through the range speed. Okay, pick yourself up, move a little faster in those things, do all your basic body control, pick yourself up, do it relaxed and soft in an elevated fashion, not a kind of splat fashion, and then do a little faster, and the range going a little faster, and this is happening a little faster, and the backup's happening a little faster, and I'm bending you a little tighter. Can you deal with that? And get the horse more actively mentally mobile in finding their balance in the reins and at different speeds. And then when you start to pick up the speed, as in you leg them up to a faster speed, a trot or anything like that, you'll find that they're coping with those reins a lot better, and they're learning that the only way they can find that soft place is by picking themselves up into that soft place, not just letting them out into sort of the droopy, relaxed fashion.
Fantastic. I hope that helps. Miriam and Laura, there's some great technical tips for you in those slightly complicated questions. I thought you did very well, Mark. It was beyond my level of understanding, but sounds like you're both making some wonderful progress with these young horses, bringing them on. It's great to hear. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody.
If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like it, share it, or leave us a comment. It all helps in reaching new ears and helping more horses. Learn more of Mark Langley's unique insights and how you can positively affect your horse's training ability and mental welfare. For just the price of a couple of coffees, you can access his online horsemanship training videos. Head to marklangley.com.au.